On a book leather bound on the county of Down, a scribe once recorded the birth of a town. It stands on a hill with one linen mill, and the beauty of heaven surrounds it. My name is Patsy Mullen, and that was the first verse of a poem I wrote about Castlewellan in 1988. I lived my life in the town, during which time I collected a variety of interesting historical items from the local people. After I retired in 1988, I decided to open a small museum and display the items in hand. Between 1988 and 1991, this museum grew daily, thanks to the people from the town and the surrounding districts. It has now reached the stage where larger premises are required, with the idea of having a permanent heritage centre. As a little tour will show, all items are documented, giving the names of the donors and some history. There are almost 400 items, and it would be impossible to read through the lot here now, so I think a visit to this museum would be well worth the effort. We will commence here now with this little item here. Between the mid-1800s and the early 1900s, the building now known as the Oak Grill was owned by William Stranahan. This was a grocer and hardware store. When the present owner bought the premises, he discovered in the upper stories of the building some cartons of unsold articles. These two little lamps are the only two survivors the following day after a visit by children that night. The one on the left has a small round wick holder, had no globe, and you can notice a little hood with a chain on it for extinguishing the flame. The one on the right had been modified since the find by a man who used it with a little globe. This item here is a doorbell from Mullen Brothers in the Upper Square, Castlewellan. It rung when you pulled the little brass knob on the left. Mullen's was a very large store for a country town, and during a little tour through the museum we will come across the name Mullen Brothers pretty often. This is an interesting little article here. When the huge statue of St. Patrick was being carved in the Ballymagreechan quarries a mile out from Castlewellan, this is the actual hand of the model used for the carving. These are some of the tools used. This was in 1932 or 3. The huge statue now stands on the hill at Saw, just outside Downpatrick. This old Share Max and BP sign came from a petrol pump on the main street next door to this building around between 1920 and 1939. This item here is a kitchen pump. It came from a house on the corner of Castle Avenue at the top of the town. It was in the kitchen behind what was once the post office. Pipe water came to Castlewellan about the turn of the century, and that was the time when this pump finished this work. It has been retired since, and the age is unknown. It could be anything up to 150 years. Here we have two cork pullers from two of the 13 local pubs in the town. The one on the left came from Mooney Brothers, and the one on the right came from Pat O'Hare's. That's at a lower end of the town and is now run by Peter Greenan. This odd-looking contraption here is a lamp. It burns paraffin oil. You heat up the burner here at the bottom, and then you lighted it. It burned just like a blow lamp. It was storm-proof and was often used by shooting galleries and other forms of amusement outside the market house before and after May Fair days. These are Delph names and numbers of shelves in Mooney Brothers wine store. These are all that is left of a large collection. They were brought to London some years ago, but when I opened this museum they were returned. Here we have a collection of 4 household utensils. The one on the left is for mashing potatoes. You boil the potato, peel them, put them into a little container and squeeze the 2 handles together. This put the potatoes out through a sieve and you had instant mash. The second and slightly higher here is an old-fashioned lemon squeezer. This round fella in the middle is called a beetle. You boil your potatoes, peel them in the 3-legged pot, and then you mash them into pulp to make champ with this beetle. The fourth one to the right here now is a little butter print, half-pound butter print. You can see 2 clappers and the little print quite clearly. This here is what they call a staff churn. It is in perfect order, although it is 100 years old. The farmer stored his week's supply of milk in this churn until it turned sour. Then with this pole in the centre, with a spicely formed foot on it, was sliced up and down through the milk for over half an hour until all the fatty substance sat on the top. It was then lifted off into a bowl, well clapped with the 2 little clappers, and then filled into the little print. Each farmer had his own design on his butter. This tool here is called a muddock. You can see it as a spade type end at one side. It is used mostly for digging in soil. Once there lived a little hermit in a cottage at the very furthest part of Castlewellan Lake, and during 1990 the lake was drained down lower than ever was known in history. They were doing alterations to one of the banks, and this is a collection of bottles was salvaged from the lake in front of where the little cottage once stood. In the corner here we have a massive muscle builder of a crosscut. It is about 7 feet long and it came from the Annesley estate. When I was cleaning it up a few years ago I discovered a piece of a newspaper in one of the handles to tighten it up, and it was dated 1940. So this saw had been in use until that time. This one here is a much smaller saw, and it was presented by a local farmer. And just below it you see a pole. This was a leading pole for a bull. You can see a hook on one end where you hooked him to the nose, and you were able to keep him about 6 foot away from you at all times. A good safety, sensible measure. Is a real, genuine old martingale. It belonged to a horse dealer who had a pub at the upper end of the town. He also had all his stables at the rear. His name was John McGinn, and it still goes under the name of McGinn. This is a picture of beautiful autumn leaves I yard in Castlewellan Forest Park and dried about 3 years ago. I wonder how many people know what these two items are. 5 years ago, when the corn crane was in operation, the farmers would bring their sacks of corn and other grain in to sell in the corn crane. To make sure the grain was of the same quality right through, an inspector pushed these into the sack in various places, and when he pulled them out again, they contained some of the grain. There was always a fear of the sacks being half full of chaff. This here is a photograph of one of the old linen mills in Ansborough, with a little bit of the flax toe, and on the left bottom corner a bit of the spun raw linen, and on the right a little bit of the finished bleached linen. This here is what is known as a picking pin. When the linen was running across two rollers in front of the worker, there was often little tufts on the linen. He had to flick those off with that pin. Tedious job all day, sure.